welcome to TAC Talk, the official podcast of Tucson Asphalt, where we break down the blacktop and spotlight the people who power the pavement. Join your hosts, Alex Dietz, Noah Dayton, and Jennifer Niles, as we dive into the stories, strategies, and leadership shaping the asphalt and construction world in Southern Arizona and beyond. From job site wisdom to industry trends, company culture to big picture thinking. If it's paving the future, we're talking about it here on TAC Talk.
I'm your host, Noah Dayton. On today's episode, we have Jim Williams from TAC Contractor School, a game-changing platform for leadership, accountability, and business development within the construction industry. Jim, welcome to the show, my friend.
Appreciate you having me on, man. I'm excited for this. Really looking forward to it.
Same. Yeah, appreciate your time today, and we're excited to get going. So, kick things off here. We want to get started with kind of some of your journey. Why don't you tell us a little bit about you, your background, and then kind of what is TAC Contractor School? How did that come to life, and what's the spark behind it?
Yep, right on. Yeah, I think if you consider TAC Contractor School holistically, it's really a platform that allows contractors to really develop themselves to grow and scale their business, and to do it with intention. So, I think if you look at the trades, tradesmen are good at the trade. A lot of times they're not great at the business, and that's where we come into play. Is we help on the business side, not the trade side. So, for me, man, it's a great fit. I've got a long history of sales and leadership in sales roles over a course of a 30-year career. So I spent 27 years in technology field, but a lot of my clients were larger contractors, so I grew up in the small to medium business space, graduated at that point into some of the bigger organizations across the country that we worked with, whether it was in roadway paving or home builds, you name it. It was really a great opportunity to be engaged with the people who are building America and, really work hand in hand with them from a technology perspective. You move that over to what I'm doing now. I'm responsible for a couple platforms within the organization. I focus on members from their partnerships or sponsorships, and then from there, social media and really all things encompassing within our media portfolio. So it's great to be able to connect with contractors and learn about the challenges that they face and, give them alternatives, some ways that we can help them.
That's awesome. I've been in this industry about 20 years now, and something that really always sparks my interest about groups like TCS and folks like yourself is, a lot of times, especially as, small businesses, business owners, we're an ESOP company here, but it's easy to get caught up in that echo chamber or just stuck on that island, right? As a business owner, was there something for you where you realized that contractors need more than just job skills, right? Like you spoke about earlier, but they also need things like leadership tools and community. Community is so important. Can you talk a little about that?
Yeah, I think community, you look at two different perspectives. So, for me, I would say community, knowing the group that we have within TAC Contractor School, really associating yourself with a peer group who is either steps ahead of you or willing to give back and help others that are in that community, I think is a huge benefit. So, you always hear people say you have to surround yourself with the right people. That's what TAC Contractor School is. Dude, since I've gotten here, it's been the same mindset from every single person I talk to, and if you go back to 7 years ago when the organization was started, it was, a constant that was 14 of the 16 people who applied to be the first members was they wanted to give back to others and really help, with what they knew and be able to, give others the benefit of what their knowledge was and what they've learned. So, They wanted to help others grow their business. So I think it's been consistent throughout, and it's great to have the right people here in the community. But if you look in the bigger picture community, you're outside of your four walls in Tucson, for example. How do you network within that community, and how do you engage yourself with people who you can help, but that also could help you, whether it's from a networking opportunity, whether it's from a learning standpoint. There's so many people in the world that you can communicate with and either learn from or give back to. That's kind of our focus is, the community is the cornerstone of really building that foundation, whether it's for our members or whether it's for our clients, the people that we're potentially helping. We need to be engaged on all fronts, but yeah, that community is a big component for us.
That's awesome. Cause I think especially in our industry, and I think in anything nowadays, like leadership, right, is a big kind of buzzword. It's,
Yeah.
There, you can Google leadership training, and you'll come up with 1,000 different places you can go, from the Maxwells to the Echelon Fronts to and leadership can be such a niche thing. But I think what you guys are really doing with Top Contractor School really is truly building that community, right? And with the meetups and the in-person events and things like that,
right.
Like really building that community of like-minded individuals that can lean on each other and grow and build and help. And but back to kind of the leadership buzzword, I want to talk a little bit about that. As you interact with contractors, what are some of the biggest misconceptions that you see contractors or business owners have when it comes to leadership, right?
Yeah. Well, I think the thing that stands out to me the most is relative to, you as a contractor have a knowledge base, right? You grew up in the trade, whether it was dad telling you how to do the trade and you learned from him, or, whether you have been, lifelong in the trade and it's just your first foray into the business. I think a lot of times people feel like leadership is telling. It's how to do this, do it this way. You've got to do it that way. I think it's really listening to others, and leadership is relative to. I always talk about the ratio. You have one mouth and two ears. You need to use them in that same ratio. So, leadership requires you to listen to your people, your team, your clients, and then from there, you use the one component, your mouth, to relay that information back to them. So, you've got to approach it that way. And I think, having a servant leadership mindset, how can I help other people to do things? Not how can I tell them to do things, but how can I help them to understand the impact of the business? Or, you've got to relay more than just do it this way because it's the way we've always done it. You have to be open mindset of, hiring the right people and letting them tell you how they think you should do it, and be open to those suggestions. But be there for your team in a leadership role. I think is critical. That's going to be how you'll grow. Is you bring the right people in, give them the responsibilities that are part of their job description, and let them create it and run with it. And be there for guidance and feedback and coaching and collaboration. It's a little bit different mindset, but that's really where there's value to the employees as well as to the business.
Yeah, servant leadership is so important. I love that, and I know you deal with a lot of companies that are, start as kind of owner operators, right, and then start building their business. And a lot of times, I think what I've seen, by the time they come to you at Top Contractor School, they're at kind of that bubble bursting scaling point, right? Like what do we do now? And so kind of twofold question, as you deal with contractors out there, what are some of the most common pain points that you see from a scaling company as they're trying to scale? And then also something I know we talk about a lot that we're both very passionate about is culture, right? So as you're scaling, what are those pain points that you see people work through? And then how do you guys at Top Contractor School help companies balance that growth mindset, but still preserving the importance of that company culture?
Yeah, so my top three, and dude, I hear them all the time. So I've kind of lumped them into groups, but I think relative to the number one pain point is what I categorize as the grip. So, people don't want to let go of control. They wear multiple hats. They are used to doing everything themselves, whether it's running the business, whether it's sales, whether it's the trade itself. I think people get wrapped up in the fact that to have a business requires other people to be part of it. It doesn't require you to do everything. So releasing control, or giving other people control of different components, I think would be the number one thing that is the biggest challenge. So wearing multiple hats, I would categorize that as. Number two, I would say, is labor. In one form or fashion, right? Whether it's retaining the right people, whether it's hiring and recruiting the right people, the grass is greener. People want to leave. They want to go out on their own and start. They feel like they can do it better than you're doing it. And again, that goes back to leadership. So, I think that's probably the number two challenge. And then I would lump number three into probably the technology footprint, whether that's project management software, whether it's social media, website, SEO. Those are topics that would come up on a routine basis. So I'd kind of put that all together in what I would say is technology. But from a culture perspective, if you have that servant leadership mindset, I think you do the right thing for the business and for the people who are part of the business. You're never going to go wrong. You're not, in it just for yourself, and then the other people are, just speed bumps along the way. If you're there really to create and grow and scale a business, it requires a team. And I think the biggest test is, can you walk away for 2 weeks and have the business operate while you're not there? That's probably a good benchmark. If you can't walk away for a day or for an hour, then that's part of the challenge that you're facing, is that you haven't given other people the ability to do what they need to have the business run. And to do that, you've got to have that mindset of, I'm not the one here doing everything. So, I think that's important to focus on, that, it's a job with a tax ID number versus an actual business that other people have roles and responsibilities, and they're critical in the success, and they need to be critical in the reward at the back end of that as well. So, if you do the right thing for your team and your people, then you reward them for the excellent job that they do. Then they're going to want to do everything that they can to make the business that much more successful. And I think about you guys, that ownership mentality is kind of twofold, right? With an ESOP, so you can be an owner of the business without having an investment into the business. I used to always say that when I was in corporate America is, walk around like you own the place. And sometimes people believe that you do, but if you have that mindset, your clients are going to understand that you're there for yourself to win, but you're also there for them to win. By always doing the right thing, focusing on the client, and then the business benefits when you do it that way. So, yeah, man, culture, it's crazy. It's a lot of different facets to it, but, really focusing on the people, I think, is critical. That's what I would benchmark.
Yeah, and really that, you hit the nail on the head with that mindset shift, right? And learning to build trust in other people to do things the way that you would want them done, or to trust people to get things done,
right?
To keep things moving when you're not around. That's a tough mindset. And I know, especially us here, one of the things we've learned is how important hiring is, right? To take that one step farther, to get the right people in the right seats and get the right people in the door, so that then you can build that trust over time. And that's a balance that I think, especially as a growing, scaling business, we talked about in our call earlier, there's a tendency to just throw bodies at problems, right? Or hire whoever comes in the door and hope they solve the problem. And
right.
I think one of the things I know we've learned here is, especially through TCS and our work with Eric and the predictive index and all that stuff, is learning to kind of, what did Brian say earlier? Put them on ice for a minute, right?
Yeah.
Like, take a step back, put them on ice. Let's run through some personality profiles, some job profiles, do some overlays, make sure that really once we bring those people in the door, they're the right people for the right seat. And then that trust can build quicker and you can speed up that process. Right.
Right.
You know,
Yeah, and there's another piece that I'd add to that. So it's the right ass in the right seat, but it's got to be on the right bus and it's got to be at the right time
Right.
for everything to make sense. So
timing's so important with it, right?
Yeah.
How many times have you seen like, this guy would be perfect, but I just don't have the spot, or it's kind of that matrix of timing and opportunity.
Yeah.
All has to cross at the right time, but when you hit that, it's a game changer for your business.
And I think that's part of the ice comment that Brian made, right? So, I mean, if you think about it, you can, and I used to always develop my leaders to think this way is you need to develop relationships that are going to happen over time. You don't want to go out and find somebody that's, oh, hey, this is a great person and let's bring them in because they're not in the right role. They're not at the right time. So like you'll have a spot for that person that eventually becomes kind of eye-opening to you. Like, oh, here's where they belong. You can't take somebody that you've just started a relationship with and plug them into something because you really don't know enough about them. So it takes a little bit of time to develop that relationship and make sure that they are the right person so that they are the right fit. And then you have a longer term play. I mean, I think that's really tricky when you come down to it. So if you've got a hole that you're trying to plug, it's going to be the wrong person if you don't have that bench candidate that you've been developing over time.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So speaking of, I want to go back to mindset real quick. We talk about that entrepreneur mindset. Now, someone like yourself that sits a little more on the coaching side of things, what is something that you do personally to keep yourself sharp, keep yourself continual learning, keep that razor edge, and so that way you can continue to be a resource for those scaling businesses?
Yeah, I mean, for me, man, it's getting out in the field and talking to people and, really engaging on the front line. The more that I can learn and ask questions, the better off that I am. So it's funny. I was out on an asphalt paving job the other day and, I don't think I've ever paid as much attention to just one small little component that I did when I was on this job. It was relative to kind of spraying the tools down with a diesel. You got the coil cords on each side and everybody's squirting them. And it never really hit me. Like I picked up on it. I'm like, you see it routinely. But I asked the one guy, I go, man, I don't know why I'm paying so much attention to this right now, but like, how many times do you guys squirt these tools in a day? Like, it just really hit me. And, something simple like that's super granular like that, it was like, I got to ask the question because I don't know the answer to it. But he's like, man, it's hundreds.
Yeah.
I said, well, yeah, I picked up on it and it's one of the things that kind of jumped out at me. And, we're kind of following the paver along and having those conversations. And it was really eye-opening to me. So like little granular stuff like that most people just overlook, I like to know about. And, it's important overarchingly to get that detail. And if you're asking the right questions, then, people will be willing to give you more information than what you ask for. Because they see that you're interested in learning about what they're doing at the time. That's important when you're bought into the person and, really learning from them. They become the expert at that point and they love to really tell you more than you're asking for.
For sure. I love that you love to get out there. We'll have to get you out here in Tucson with our crew one of these days. Maybe we'll wait till the fall or the spring, though. It's I don't think you want anything to do with the 112 out here right now. But I love seeing the videos on social of you out there and the Dynapack rollers and mixing it up with the crews. It's super cool to see. Super cool. So I want to shift gears to kind of us, Tucson Asphalt, and our relationship with TCS. And we've been involved with TCS a fairly short time. I think 3-4 months at this point. Early on here, from your perspective, what is something that you think that you've seen makes us at Tucson Asphalt unique in how we approach growth and leadership?
Yeah, I mean, what I know about you guys, and again, short-term relationship, we've recently met, several months ago, but I think the thing that stands out for me is really the focus on the people. I don't think we've had one conversation about the trade. We've talked a little bit about some of the equipment that you guys use and, what you do. But outside of that, it's really investing in the people and their development. And, I think that's impactful to the business, because they see that you make that investment in them and, developing the people and making sure that they have the necessary tools to do the job. That's critical to business growth, and that's definitely something that stands out for me.
That's awesome. Yeah, we try to make a big point, and that's something I know has been super important for Jennifer. Since I've been here from day one, is just people are the most important thing here, right? Especially as an ESOP company, we don't survive without our people, and as the people get better, the company gets better, and vice versa. It's
right.
It's a hand in hand thing for us, and so we really try to protect that and make sure that stays at the forefront of what we do. So I appreciate you pointing that out. As the industry's moving forward here, what are some key opportunities that you see for, companies like Tucson Asphalt and others throughout? You deal with companies all over the country, right? That are continuing to scale, continuing to grow, continuing to look for those new opportunities. What are some of those things you see on the horizon out there?
I've said it a couple times relative to technology, but
yeah.
I think an openness to innovate is going to be key for people. So how do you differentiate yourself from your competition? And think about it. As the focus shifts from college and, people going to a 4-year degree, there's a lot of people that are entering trade schools. There are a lot of people that are, going out and starting in the trades as opposed to going to a 4-year college. So, there's going to be that many more people that are starting their own businesses. How do you innovate and differentiate yourself from them? And I think the big thing is leveraging technology. How do you create some efficiency with tools like AI and, layering in AI chatbots, whether it's, something as simple as like answering a phone call so that it doesn't go to the competition.
Yeah.
Maybe you're out on a job site and an AI chatbot answers a call and triages that and sets an appointment for you. Things like that are really going to differentiate the marketplace. And it's those people who are the early adopters who are going to win. I think that's really critical now is, if you're not looking at solutions that are technology driven, I would suggest that you start. From there, ask a ton of questions, review a lot of different alternatives, and really, you're going to find so many in the marketplace. You've got to find the one that's the right fit for you. Don't buy something that, you see a ton of hype around or, everybody is taking advantage of. If it's not the right fit for you, then it's not going to be a tool that's impactful to you or your team. Make sure that you've demoed whatever the solution is multiple times over. You've asked a lot of their existing client base how they're benefiting from the solution. But that's really important, I think, is to, make sure that you stand out in the marketplace. It could even be as simple as engaging social media if you haven't ever before. Create that relationship online and leverage the tools that are out there with like Meta. Facebook, Instagram. People were kind of against TikTok, but I've got a buddy that's 75 years old and, he's like, hey, I saw this on TikTok.
Yeah.
Okay, well, yeah, it's another platform for social presence. So, take advantage of all of those tools that are out there that you can leverage. Let people develop a relationship with you that's relative to social media. Let them become familiar with who you are. It's going to help you to hire the right people. It's going to help you to acquire the right clients. There's a lot of avenues that's beneficial.
Yeah, Hunter, I couldn't agree more. And I would add to that, if you're out there listening and you're diving down that technology rabbit hole or really anything as you're scaling the business, kind of non-shameless plug here, but find a group like TCS. Like I'm not, there's so many resources out there. And, we talked about leadership training earlier. Like you could dive down a rabbit hole and anybody who's anybody thinks that they're a leadership trainer now, right? Or a business coach or whatever. But finding those right ones and if you can link up and find a group, of like-minded individuals, very similar to TCS, of people that you can lean on to help shorten that learning curve and really eliminate a lot of those roadblocks because people have already pulled those levers and made those mistakes, right? Is so important. I mean, I know that's something from us as a company has benefited so much from, is just being able to have that peer group to reach out to and say, hey, I'm thinking about this, or I'm looking at this. Does anybody else have experience with it? And to get that honest, unbiased feedback from folks that want to see you succeed also is super powerful.
Yeah. Yeah, man. And I think too, if you consider, I mean, for us, and, I'll just give you a little bit of detail on what we do and how we do it. So, I mean, I think there's benefit, whether it's somebody who's recently just started a business and they're within 1 year and, maybe they're at $400,000 or $500,000 a year that they're doing in top line revenue. We've got a space for that person, no different than a company that's doing, $25 million in revenue. We've got anywhere from our elite program that is going to help those people who are just getting into the business and really need some help. On the flip side, we've got 16 or 17 companies now that are in our 8-figure group. And, that's really a different conversation than somebody that's doing 3 to 5 million in revenue. So, we can help people across the revenue spectrum. And we've got different programs. But I mean, for us, like you've talked about some of the calls and things that we do. So weekly trainer-led coaching calls, that brings the community together digitally. I think from there, like the shift, then you mentioned some of the in-person stuff that we do. Like our goal is to take digital and create, that relationship, which then brings people in person to further that relationship. And that's one of the big things that I think sets us apart. We really invest in creating those relationships for the peer group. To your point, it accelerates your failure. Instead of you banging your head against the wall 3 or 4 times trying to figure something out, like just go ask somebody that's in the community. And within the custom app, there's ways that you can do that. Drop somebody a direct message. We've got a live chat feature that's available for our community. A ton of questions that come up in there. It's all a great resource, but that the hope is you see somebody on a Zoom call, you've reached out to them in the app, you've got that direct message. Now you pick the phone up and call them, and now you've developed that relationship that you see them in, one of our face-to-face events that we host, and now you've really kind of advanced from that digital to personal. So it's a big component, whether it's us or whether it's somebody else. I mean, do what's right for you, but we can certainly be that resource for you if that's an option.
For sure. And, we could speak to that personally here just on a couple fronts. The accessibility is something that I know we've experienced that you don't get anywhere else with, a lot of training platforms say, oh, access to our coaches, right? TCS has, what do you have, about 15 or 20 executive coaches?
10 executive coaches.
10 executive coaches.
Yep.
And they are no kidding. You shoot them a text, an email, whatever. Within a couple hours, you're getting a response of some sort. You can hop on a call, schedule an appointment, have a chat, whatever the case may be. And then, kind of to your point, it's, we had some interactions online with a couple folks and then sent some messages, hopped on a phone call. And now we've got 2 members from TCS that are actually now going to sit on our company board of directors, Travis and Keith, just through this group, through that you just walked us right through that interaction. It was, met them online, shared some messages. We flew them out to Tucson, met with them in person. They hung out with us for a couple days and now, they're part of the family in essence, right? I mean, you kind of walked right through that whole process and, that's awesome. That's the group. It's they're super accessible and super personable and it does feel like everybody there is invested in everybody else's company one way or another, even though they're all there to help. It's that rising tides raises all ships mentality, right? And that's really the feel you get when you come in and start interacting with the group. It's super awesome. So definitely, highly recommend people find, whether it's TCS or something, find a group of like-minded individuals that can really help you push your business and work through those struggles for sure. So we're not going to get you out of here too easy. So we got a little rapid fire round. We're going to throw some questions at you and then a couple wrap-up questions. So you ready for some rapid fire here?
Let's roll.
Okay. So Jim Williams, morning routine must have. How do you get your day started?
So I've got, it's kind of crazy to say, but I've got the three things that I do first thing. So toilet, teeth, and Q-tip. So if I don't have those three things in order, then I don't make it to the coffee pot without some type of challenge. So I've got to do those three things in order every single morning. It just creates my routine. It puts me into that mindset of, okay, I've accomplished a couple things. Let's get a coffee. Let's flip through notifications. At that point, I'm on to a workout. Yeah, man, it's if I don't do them in that order, it kind of throws me for the day, and it creates that consistency. I think if you do the same thing all the time, then you know exactly, you've got that, mindset. You're ready to go for the day. So yeah,
Nice.
that's my morning.
I like it. How about favorite book or podcast?
I get into a lot of the what I would say is like Navy SEAL.
Yep.
Some of those elite Army forces, Green Berets. I listen to Sean Ryan, DJ Shipley.
Yeah,
those guys I'm into. I'm listening to William McCraven's book right now, Sea Stories.
Okay.
Do a lot of audio books when I'm working out. So that's one that I'm listening to. I'm about, I think I've got 2 hours left on Audible. So that's part of my bike ride. I've got those headphones that kind of sit on the bones of your ears. So I have my ears open and I'm still riding the bike out on the road. So
Nice.
That's awesome. I get to listen to that while I'm on the road. Yeah, man, anything that's really kind of just focused on people doing stuff that's what a lot of people think is extraordinary and most people think is ordinary. I like that stuff, the challenges, the mindset stuff. Another great book that I kind of go back to all the time, Chris Voss.
Yeah.
There's a ton of great tips and tricks that are in there.
Never split the difference.
Yeah.
Yep,
100%.
it's a good one. Little dry, but there's a lot of good nuggets in that book.
Yeah. And dude, like the first time I listened to that, I did it when I was on the bike.
Oh.
And the whole time I'm listening to it, I'm like, I got to write that down. I need to, that's great. I want to take that away. And, it's different when you're working out and you're 8-10 miles away from, any type of notepad. You can't do that. So I re-listened to it again and, went back through and took a ton of notes. So yeah, that's another good one, especially if you're in the sales game, negotiating or, anything, relationships, I think that's a good one to go back to.
For sure. That's definitely a good one. I'm also, I'm about 3/4 of the way through David Goggins' first book right now. So I'll finish that book this week. So I love those two. Same thing. Just, mentally tough people doing hard things is super awesome I love reading that kind of stuff too. Super cool.
Yeah. I've listened to that one 3 times, I think. So,
okay. It's a good one.
Yep.
Yep. What is one quote that sticks with you or that you kind of live by, carry with you?
Yeah, I mean, dude, I taught my kids this, and it just repetition's the mother of education for me on this one. But always do the right thing, no matter who you think is watching. If they could develop that mindset, then they're going to behave in the way that is right and not really dependent on who their audience is. I wanted them to kind of get that. If you do the right thing, regardless of who you're around, then you're you for you and not you for them, which is really how I wanted my kids to grow up. And, dude, it's crazy now. I've got 19, 21, and 32, and, just the independence that they have. And I mean, they're really them for themselves. And, it's unique to watch. So.
That's awesome. Yep. It's the definition of integrity, essentially, right? Raising children to live, a life of integrity. It's super, super important.
Yep.
So let's see one more here. What is one word to you that describes the future of the construction industry?
I would say intentional.
Okay.
I mean, whether you're being intentional with your employees or your clients, I think it's really that kind of a wrapper, if you will, that encompasses everything about what you do on a day-to-day basis. Be intentional. I think if I picked another word, it would be passionate. Be passionate about everything that you're doing from the time that you wake up until the time that you go to bed. People see that and feel that. It comes across. People receive that, and they always say, like, sometimes you feel when somebody walks in a room, if you're passionate, or intentional, that people recognize that, and I think it just puts you ahead of everybody else.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think if you go back, 20, 30 years, kind of that big round of like first generation business owners, it was a lot of just like grit and winging it, right? And you could kind of just muscle yourself through. And that's what got a lot of businesses to where they are today, is just like pure grit and muscle, right?
Outwork the problem.
We're just gonna figure it out, and I'm just going to work harder. I think with our workforce now and the evolution of technology, you have to be intentional with what you're doing. It's so much harder to just like figure it out anymore. You have to be, I love that. You have to be intentional and with what you're doing all across the board. That's awesome. So a couple final takeaway questions for you here, and then we'll get you out of here. So what is one piece of advice that you would give to somebody that is just stepping up into a leadership role within the industry?
Yeah. I mean, my advice would be, don't go alone. You need to ask other people for help. When I was a young leader, that was one of the things I found a mentor. I found somebody that, was steps ahead of me that I could look up to and respect. When you're a leader and you're becoming a new leader, I always say there's two different things that you'll learn. You'll learn who you don't want to be, and you'll learn who you do want to be from shadowing and watching others. So, you got to find that right person that you can, either learn from or, and that's the trick. Like, as you're a leader, the more that you can take something from somebody else and make that your own, you're going to be in a better place. Like, I still do things that, I call it the Bill Wasco head bob. Like, so if I'm listening to somebody, exactly what you're doing now, I'll sit and I start doing the Bill Wasco head bob. Yeah. I'd learned that 30 years ago, from this guy, and it's like, it stuck with me. And, if I'm sitting and I'm talking to someone and they're telling me things, like, my head starts bobbing. Yep. And I'm like, oh, that's the Bill Wasco head bob. So yeah, man, just be curious and, find somebody that you can ask questions to along the way. Don't be afraid to ask, because not knowing puts you in a worse situation than if you have a couple different opinions.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's such good advice. And then lastly, how can people connect with you? How can people connect with TCS, learn more about TCS, what they do? Give us all the plugs here.
Yeah, so topcontractorschool.com. We've got some really good content that's there. You can find me on the coaches tab. I'm all the way towards the bottom, the tall, good-looking bald guy that's on your video screen right now. Don't be confused with some of the other guys that are on there, like Eric Guy. But you can connect there. You can schedule a call with me directly. If you want to go over to social, I think probably the easiest place to find me is on Instagram, JimmerJam3. You can find me there. A ton of good content that we do on some of the shoots that we're out in the field. Engaging people there. I'm always on the platform, always messaging contractors back and forth there. So another good spot. Jim.Williams@topcontractorschool.com. You can probably Google search me too and come up. So a lot of different ways to track me down. But if people reach out to you, I'm sure you can point me in their direction as well.
Absolutely. And check out the One Team also. They put out some killer media and that kind of stuff too. They do great work, and I wouldn't be surprised if you ran into Jim at one of the your local or regional trade shows or the PAVEX, and Jim makes his way around too. So don't be afraid to say hi. Make sure you stop and check out go check out what TCS has to offer. It's been a huge value add to us here at Tucson Asphalt, and I know it can help so many other, growing, scaling, and established businesses also. So we appreciate everything you guys do over there, and really appreciate your time today. This has been awesome. Thank you so much for rapping with me. And
man, it's been great.
Yeah. So thanks again, man, and enjoy the rest of your day.
All right. Thank you, man.
Yeah. Thanks, Jim. Appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in to TAC Talk, the official podcast of Tucson Asphalt. If you enjoyed this episode, please sure to follow, rate, and share. It helps us keep the conversation rolling. We'll see you next time, where we keep breaking ground and building up the people behind the pavement. Until then, stay solid, stay safe, and keep paving the way forward.